There is massive investment opportunities in the transition and transformation to low-carbon Akwa Garden of Eden.
And therefore, it's quite evident that mitigation will have to have several sources of financing, the market being one based on offsets, but there will have to be other complementary avenues for as incentives for mitigation, and that is what we are beginning to call climate finance, where developing countries will be helped in their mitigation efforts, but not on an offset or market-based system, but rather based on their own national efforts.
This requires major shifts of investment towards the right energy, transport, water, and building infrastructure, and we need to make these shifts on a large scale.
Well, there's no shortage of capital in this world. That's one thing there's plenty of. The real issue is where it goes. What's the destination for that investment capital? And that's really where governments have an important role to play.
To help governments achieve this goal, the OECD has identified the key elements of a policy framework for green investment. It includes 5 priorities. First, set clear, long-term strategic policy goals to ensure meaningful action and predictability for investors. Goals need to be aligned across different levels of government, from local to national, and developed in consultation with business and community leaders. Second, implement policies and incentives to support low-carbon, climate-resilient investment. Putting a price on carbon and other pollution is an important first step, including removing subsidies to fossil fuel use and production. This will help to make clean energy sources more competitive. Additional regulations will be needed as well, such as energy efficiency standards in buildings or for household appliances. Third, provide the right financial instruments to reduce risk and increase returns from green infrastructure projects. Public funds can be used to help leverage private investments, for example by providing loan guarantees to lower the cost of capital and to increase the availability of financing. International climate finance will also be critical for developing countries. Fourth, harness resources, for example for research and development, and build the capacity for action. And fifth, promote greener consumer and business behavior through education, public awareness campaigns, eco-labels, and harmonized standards for greenhouse gas accounting and reporting by firms. Together, these elements of a green investment policy framework can help to mobilize private investment and bring transformational change. This will require consumers, businesses, and of course political leaders from both developed and developing countries to act responsibly for their own sake and that of future generations.
On the Green Climate Fund, I'm a banker, and for me, in these discussions on the Green Climate Fund, there is too much obsessive discussion about amounts and where it's going to come from. For me, I would like to see the discussion rebalanced a bit to discuss more the nature of the products that the Green Climate Fund could usefully deploy to help the struggling against climate change. So for me, in the Green Climate Fund, I want to see the ability to deploy technical assistance, particularly for smaller developing countries, to help them improve their capacity to develop projects. I'm a project man, I want to finance projects. I would like the Green Climate Fund to include also some innovative projects to help lever in private sector money. So I hope we will see the imagination to consider certain sorts of guaranteed projects, which I think have a big part to play. So I don't want to emphasise too much, as a banker, the numbers, the quantums. What I want is to see discussion moving to the nature of the products.
Infrastructure development, infrastructure finance is essential for Africa's development. Right now, the lack of infrastructure in transport and energy and water and ICT is costing around 2% of GDP of the continent. On the other hand, as we build this infrastructure, we have to ensure that this infrastructure will remain, because the impact of climate change on infrastructure development is obvious.
to see the international community focus on mechanisms. For example, if you look at what we did today, arguably the most important thing was to get the $5 billion in commitments from the financial institutions, which more than double the size of the market, and then get the commitment from the energy savers to offer performance guarantees, which then made it possible to finance repayment of the bank loans through energy savings, lower utility bills every month. And doing that is really, really important, and maybe a lot more important than just stating we're going to have a goal here. You got to figure out how to get this stuff done. I like to get us back in the solutions business.
We're helping to put together a $6 billion package of financing. That's from both public and private sources, as well as technical assistance.
Building a low-carbon global economy demands a worldwide commitment. On a comparable financial scale, it will require billions of new investment in clean energy. The climate change crisis is the product of many generations, but overcoming it must be the great project of this generation.
How do we make sure that we create the finance flows that are going to be necessary in order to make this work? Now, we believe there's a huge economic opportunity for countries, for business, for people in taking action on climate change. But it won't be maximised unless there is that true global deal, one with everybody in it, one that has at its heart a substantial cut in emissions, and that most crucially has the means of doing it. And it's the focus on the how, not whether, because we all accept whether, but the how, that we will be working on now and in the months to come.